Top diplomats of the Philippines and China commit to resolve maritime differences. Filipino Muslims celebrate Idil Fitr, which marks the end of their month-long fasting. And industry projections indicate a rollback in fuel prices next week. Fast, focused, and fearless. Here's a roundup of stories we're watching now. I'm Riza Diaz. We begin the newscast with a bilateral meeting between Chinese Foreign Minister Qin Gang and his Filipino counterpart Enrique Manalo. The top diplomats covered various issues, including the territorial dispute in the West Philippine Sea. In his opening remarks, Manalo said these differences are not the sum total of the country's relationship with China.
These differences should not prevent us from seeking ways of managing them effectively. Especially fishermen or fisherfolk whose livelihood and general well-being are undermined by incidents and actions in the West Philippine Sea.
Meanwhile, Qin stressed the importance of resolving conflicts through dialogues and consultations. He said that they are ready to implement the consensus between President Bongbong Marcos and Xi Jinping.
Amid the fluid and turbulent national and regional situation, a healthy and stable China-Philippine relationship is not only meeting the aspiration of our two, but also in line with common aspiration of regional countries.
The Chinese foreign minister is also expected to have a meeting with Marcos Jr. in Malacanang later today. Meanwhile, a recent social weather station survey shows that 89% of Filipinos are satisfied with democracy in the Philippines. The SWS said the figure is 11 points above the 78% in April 2021 and 3 points higher than the previous record of 86% in 2016. The survey also revealed that 60% preferred democracy, 26% choose authoritarianism, and 15% were indifferent. The SWS survey was conducted in December last year through face-to-face interviews of over 1,200 respondents across the country. Filipino Muslims gather at various locations to celebrate Idil Fitr, marking the end of Ramadan. Around 6,000 people flocked to the Golden Mosque in Quiapo and at the Carino Grandstand to offer their prayers. The Manila Police District said the religious event was peaceful. Malacanang earlier declared April 21 as a holiday across the country for the observance of Idil Fitr.
Once you are Muslim, kahit sino ka, presidente, milyonaryo ka, o pinakamahirap ka, pari-parehas kami dito gumagawa ng nagpa-fasting. Yung mga tao, mga kaibigan mo, nakikita mo, nagkakamayan kayo, nagmamahalan, yun ang ipinaka-importante. Ang Muslim dapat to be honest, walang kaaway, dahil tinuruan kami ng Ramadan every year.
We'll be back with more stories after the break. Keep it here on One News. You're still watching When News Now. I'm Riza Diaz. Motorists can expect a rollback in the prices of petroleum products next week. Unioil Philippines projects that prices of diesel would go down by up to 70 centavos per liter, while gasoline prices would be slashed by as much as 1 peso and 50 centavos per liter. The Energy Department earlier cited several reasons for the potential rollback. These include the correction of market prices due to uncertainties on production cuts of OPEC+. The adjustments would end 3 consecutive weeks of hikes for gasoline and would extend price cuts for diesel. The Land Transportation Office extends the validity of expiring driver's licenses amid shortage of cards. In Fulgencio with the report.
Joy was able to get her driver's license in less than an hour at the Land Transportation Department District Office in Diliman, Quezon City. Her license is expiring in June, but she wanted to renew as early as now to save her from any hassle.
Hindi ako sumasabay yun sa date ng expiration ko kasi nag-accommodate naman sila in advance para less din sa akin on my checklist.
But the good news is, licenses expiring on April 24 and beyond will now be valid until the end of October. This was the LTO's response to criticisms after it announced that it would issue licenses printed on paper. The agency is running low on supply of plastic cards for driver's licenses. To date, the offices in Region 3 have already run out of plastic cards. There are also only about 147,000 remaining plastic cards across the country, which could only last until the end of April.
Pinipilit namin i-stretch yung aming supply. So we're trying to communicate with the central office on how we will go about that situation.
LTO Chief J.R. Tugadi said he was already aware that supplies are critically low when he assumed his post in November. He added they already started the procurement process in December. But in January, the Department of Transportation issued a special order which mandates all attached agencies to leave to the mother agency the procurement of items worth 50 million pesos and above. Procurement of 5.2 million plastic card, which should last for a year, was pegged at 249 million pesos.
Nung lumabas po yung SO on January, we were instructed basically to stop all procurement activities because all procurement activities would now have to be conducted by DOTR Central. Had we been able to continue with our procurement activities, we would have sufficient plastic cards right now.
LTO officials said they tried to make an appeal but it was not granted. Because of the complexity of the procurement process, submission of bids for interested suppliers of plastic cards was extended up to May 24. With this, the actual arrival of the plastic cards is still uncertain. Reporting for News 5, Elaine Fulgencio, we are One News.
Artificial intelligence has become a part of our daily lives, from the assistant in our smartphones to AIs that make art and edit photos. But how does AI really work? Let's watch this.
Discussing whether AI could ever become alive or sentient in the human sense of those words is risky. Some experts consider it at best a distraction from important research, while others with equal expertise believe it's essential we at least ask, yeah, but what if? And the faster AI systems develop, the more the question crops up. The reason in part is that sophisticated AI systems are built using so-called neural networks, a technology loosely based on the makeup of the human brain, but without the biological limits. So how do they work? Imagine a child with a shape sorting cube. We'll call them Alex. At first, Alex is given a bunch of blocks and holes to fit them through. They place the triangle on a circular opening, but realize that's wrong. Eventually, they go for the triangular hole. Great success! Have a balloon, Alex. In future, Alex can be given different size shapes and a fabulous new cube, but that initial trial and error means they're more likely to succeed with further attempts. This is essentially how neural networks function too. They learn to make the machine equivalent of educated guesses, though it can take thousands or even millions of attempts to become proficient. Just as a child's brain learns to map neural pathways based on what it's been taught, an AI's virtual neurons learn to generate ideas and responses based on the information it's been fed. These neurons are layered deeply on top of each other, which is why the approach is also known as deep learning, and greatly increases their flexibility and power. And this is where the question of sentience comes in. Some people argue that the more closely the fabric of a machine resembles that of a human, the greater the risk is that we create something that can think for itself, teach itself, and perhaps assume the worst of human behavior and go rogue, in the vein of the hosts in HBO's Westworld.
And those are the top stories of the hour. Join us again tomorrow as we monitor the day's biggest stories. I'm Riza Diaz. We are One News.